What's up, Facebook, YouTube, internet world? We are now in week 3 of the Corona quarantine log saga, landscape mode again. And it is fucking 4/5/2020. That is April 5th, 2020. That's right, an entire month of 420. Hope you guys are well stocked. So, looks like we've got a nice little system going on here where we do big picture, small picture. Oop, I'm covering up the camera. Oop. All right. So, big picture, America, good news, is finally encouraging people to wear masks after initially telling people that it's not necessary or helpful. I think the original messaging was kind of confusing, but I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I think they were pretty much saying, like, yo, masks are good, but healthcare workers need them more than you. So, don't go hog on all the N95s, which is, that's kind of a valid point. The federal government has not been supplying equipment to the states. So the states themselves are trying to acquire it by themselves. And when they do, the feds are, according to one story I read, what the feds are doing is kind of fucked up. They're not only stopping, preventing them from, not only not supplying the states, when the states do get their own supplies, the feds are stopping the planes on the tarmac and seizing the equipment until the states plead with the feds to get their stuff back, which is fucking crazy, right? You're like, not only are you not giving people the supplies to help themselves, when they are taking the measures to help themselves, you're actually impeding them. So fuck that. And that's led to some pretty crazy backdoor kind of deals, like the governor of Massachusetts made a deal with the New England Patriots to borrow their plane, fly to China, and pick up 1 million masks and then fly back. So they had to they moved heaven and earth. They got like the Chinese consul general involved. They were like, okay, we're gonna go, but we're not gonna get off the plane, so we don't have to be in quarantine. They were there. They could only stay for a maximum of 3 hours. So they managed to land, get the shit on the plane, and vamoose in 2 hours and 57 minutes. Skin in your teeth, right? So, yeah, it's good to see that local leaders are taking the initiative to make the situation better for their people. Meanwhile, in Washington, they have all the political will in the world to bail out big business and inject money into the economy, but only like a scattered ability to respond to the virus itself. Personal story, my roommate is a doctor, and when he was asked if he'd be willing to work with Rona patients, he came to me and he was like, yo, would you be upset if I moved out? Because, I might be, as a healthcare worker, I'm more likely to be exposed in the first place. And now that I'm being asked to work with these patients straight up, I don't want to, I want to protect you guys. So of course, I'm sad to see him go, but salute him for thinking of me, thinking of us at a time like that. So we salute you, Ryan. But the point of that story is, like, in other countries, like in China, they have dormitory facilities. They have places for frontline healthcare workers to stay. That way they don't run the risk of going home and infecting their families. But we don't have any kind of provision for that, as far as I know. Instead, we've got money to bail out fucking Boeing. So it kind of shows you where our national priorities are among our ruling class. It's kind of a slow motion train wreck. Yeah, there was something else I wanted to say on that topic, but no, I can't remember. Yeah, it just seems like they're more focused on treating the economy than they are treating the virus, which is kind of back-asswards, right? Like, you want to treat the root, not the branch. Anyways, so after the last video, a lot of people were asking me to cover different countries' national responses to the Rona. So I thought, okay, cool, let's do that real quick. So the other big country that is also impacted by the Rona is, of course, China, my motherland, and they're kind of turning the corner on it. They've been opening up the travel restrictions, maybe a little bit too fast. There was like an incident on like the border of Hubei where like there were riots from neighboring provinces saying like, hey, Hubei is of course the province of which Wuhan is the capital. So all these people were like, yo, don't fucking come in here, even though the government had opened up travel again. And China has also they've informed their businesses that they're not going to be enforcing pollution regulations as strictly while they recover and like get back online, which is no good, no good. Come on, guys. Like, one of the good things about this epidemic is that it's kind of allowed, by the slowdown in economic activity, it's allowed the natural world to recover a little bit. So let's not go back to our bad old ways. But also, of course, meanwhile, in America, Trump is rolling back environmental protections at the same time. Something I read about, they had rolled back like the Obama era regulations on auto emissions. They're supposed to be reducing emissions by 5% every year. They've reduced that down to 1.5%, which, come on. Anyways, so on the good news, China has been exporting and sometimes even donating supplies like personal protective equipment, test kits. They were fucking sending planes and planes full of this gear to the far corners of the earth. Some of these kits, some of the test kits, they can give you results in less than an hour. The accuracy is so-so, but they're fast, so that counts for something. Hopefully it helps. They've gotten a lot of praise for what they've done, both in terms of like limiting the transmission of disease as much as they can, and also for like helping other countries deal with this disease also. Like the WHO has, they said that China had the, hold on, I got the quote here. They said, perhaps the most ambitious, agile, and aggressive disease containment effort in history. Legit. Fucking dope. Bill Gates has praised the Chinese response. And I also want to take a moment here to shout out Taiwan, who has especially kicked ass. They've had hardly any cases or deaths, and even business has barely stumbled. They basically, what they did is first of all, they already had a plan in place for how to deal with this Rona. So when it happened, they were just like, yo, execute protocol 457A or whatever, and it just started moving. They already had like a neighborhood, it was called a neighborhood warden that was in place from the old Kuomintang days, like the old Nationalist Party. So they reactivated that, and yeah, they fucking wrecking this Rona thing. So overall, China is like opening up again, it looks like things are starting to get better over there after 11 weeks of quarantine in Wuhan. So we're on week 3, maybe week 4, depending on how you count it. So we got a ways to go still. So yeah, they're opening up again, but they're still super sketched out. There's also like this weird like China versus America feud going on right now. Like I'm constantly seeing like anti-Chinese news stories on Facebook, a lot of anti-Chinese sentiment, and of course there's like the hate crimes against Asians, which that's fucking stupid, guys. But like, come on, this is like a problem facing all humanity. This is not like a nation versus nation thing. This is the time that we all need to come together. And it's like a fable, like when things get bad, people either come together and beat it together, or they turn on each other and they fight each other and they all go down. So, I mean, which one do you want? What you trying to do here? So a couple other countries' responses. Australia, they took aggressive action early. I think on February 27th, they called it a pandemic, which beat even the WHO to the punch. And they even beat the Chinese response in terms of speed. They quarantined the whole country. UK, they were pretty bold. They were just like, yo, come get me, Rona. We're going to ride this thing out. Herd immunity. What? But then, like, the whole world was like, what? And then to the credit of the British government, after that, like, Imperial College of London study, they reverse course. They're like, yo, we can't fucking deal with that. We got to do something. So kudos to Boris Johnson and his government to having the courage to face the facts and admit when you're wrong. Mr. Johnson, I hope you recover. They're totally locked down now. Italy, and that's been in the news a lot, is like a place where it's bad. And the thing about Italy is they have a high quality healthcare system, but they just got overwhelmed because they don't have the capacity to deal with all these patients. Japan, they finally canceled the Olympics. Sorry guys, but it's for the best. Their numbers seem low, but based on what I read, it seems like they haven't really done shit. So those low numbers are the result of not much testing. And come on, Abe. Meanwhile, the other Asian tiger, South Korea, kicking ass. They've got a high quality testing regime, they've got contact tracing, they got lockdown, and most importantly, they got a sense of public solidarity. Like, that's the people who seem to have come together to fight this thing, so respect. Germany, they've been kicking ass too. They shut everything down. They've got lots of testing, they've lots of critical care beds. They've got, and actually they make they're the main ventilator manufacturer in Europe. So they've got a lot of cases, which sucks, but they have low deaths, which is good. Israel, so this spooky place has been using their secret police called Shin Bet to start using counterterrorism technology to track this virus. Spooky as fuck. So apparently Netanyahu said that this technology had never before been used on civilians. I'm sure, never. And will involve some violation of privacy. So they approved it for 40 days, which is important because, that's a sunset clause. And I'll get into this later, but that sunset clause is going to be really important as we give states more and more power to deal with this. Iran, they basically ate shit. The authorities minimized it, even as they themselves got sick. They've been fucking wrecked by Western sanctions, so they don't have any money to deal with this. And actually, when the United States offered aid, there's such a distrust in Iran towards the United States. They're like, yo, we don't know if this aid you're offering us is actually going to carry the disease in it. And bottom line, even the aid that might be offered is, compared to from what I've read, compared to the sanctions, it's not really it's really minimal in impact because although there is technically a exemption for relief aid, the fact is most companies are too sketched out to deal with Iran because they're worried about a U.S. backlash towards them. But recently, to their credit, they've issued a fatwa, which is like a religious ruling, telling everyone to stay the fuck home and even stay away from religious sites. People, from what I read, don't really seem to be listening. India and Pakistan, they both got fucked. India went on lockdown too, but kind of in a haphazard way. They didn't specify. I think the prime minister was like, yo, lockdown starts in a couple hours. So people freaked out and they started panic buying supplies and stuff. The government did not specify that pharmacies and grocery stores would stay open. They also didn't specify that who was allowed to be on the roads. So there's stories of doctors being accosted and beaten by police for trying to get to the hospital, shipments of medical supplies and ventilators getting fucking stopped on the roads. So, there's a whole range of responses around the world, some much more effective than others. And overall, I'm glad to see different countries starting to take more and more decisive measures. But what worries me more than this virus does in the longer term is the rise of state power nationwide, or not nationwide, worldwide. Guys, the virus is definitely no joke, but the state, that's the coldest of all cold monsters and is responsible for way more deaths, way more human suffering than any virus except maybe malaria. So yeah, the state is the only organization that's broad enough and powerful enough to organize a coordinated response. But we should also be careful that it rolls back its powers after this crisis is over. And if you know anything about accumulating power, good fucking luck getting anyone to give up power once they have it. So now is the time to insist on sunset clauses, basically like what they have in Israel, saying hey, things are going to be different for X number of days, X number of weeks, X number of months. And then at the end of it, you revisit that decision and determine whether you want to keep that or not. Because it's all too easy for, especially now in a moment of emotion, to create this all-powerful state during this crisis. And when the crisis is over, the state retains all of its power. So we got to be careful. All right, cool. Small picture. Small picture now. I recently read that humidity is supposed to help prevent the virus from spreading because that like moist air is supposed to be good for your lungs, good for your airways, and B, the water in the air inhibits the actual like movement of the virus particles in space. So I might be getting a humidifier soon. I've been so something kind of funny happened over the course of this quarantine experience. Like at first, when everything was locked down, it was like, oh my God, I have so much time now. But as the weeks have gone on, like I've kind of adjusted to this new staying at home kind of lifestyle, and I've started making more appointments. Like there was like a period of flux where like, oh my God, everything's changed, everything's different. But now and like everything kind of went out the window. But now things are kind of stabilizing, at least on the home front. So I'm starting to settle into pattern, making appointments, blocking off time, getting back into doing regular things. So time which was once so open is now getting squeezed more and more. But it's good because like with like good and productive things. Like I've been watching some online courses like EDX. It's like a Harvard-based online service that has a ton of really in-depth courses on all kinds of obscure shit that you might be interested in. One thing that I've been watching is this class on the Eastern, like the Chinese versus Western conception, rule of right, like rule of ritual versus rule of law, and like the philosophical underpinnings of these two ways of organizing a society. I've been also kind of dabbling on this class on Chinese calligraphy. I got bad handwriting, but I'm trying to learn Chinese, and as I like practice characters, calligraphy is starting to look sexier and sexier. I've been playing StarCraft, which is awesome. I fucking suck. Well, I sucked a lot last week. Now I'm starting to get a little better. I've been, I was watching these pro games, and they did this sexy thing where they put, I might lose a bunch of viewers here, but they use swarm hosts and nidus networks to basically pull the enemy's army in two places, just keep them bouncing around from the front and back of their base, fucking causing damage, causing confusion, fear, just like fucking up your opponent mentally. And of course, a great empire is not defeated from without until it is first defeated from within. Put that fear in their mind, put that frustration, that uncertainty, get them on the back foot, get them making mistakes, and you'll win. I started I started resuming my Chinese studies with online classes instead of in-person classes. I've been doing a 2-hour class once a week, but I think I'm going to break that up into 2 1-hour classes because 2 hours is a long time to be fucking on the phone or like doing a Google Hangouts with someone, you know. There's been a lot of online hangouts with friends, which is great. Recently, one of my homegirls, she had an online birthday party, and that was so cool because like, you know, people can call in from all around the country as opposed to like an in-person celebration. So obviously it's dope to see people in person, but there's advantages to meeting online too. So yeah, I'm still reading, what's that book? Here it is. Still reading 1587. I'm almost done with it now. I know last week I said maybe I'll have it done this week, but been found other things to, you know, divert my intellectual academic interest in. Since at work things are kind of quiet now, they give us access to LinkedIn Learnings, which is like a dope tool for professional development. And what I like about that is like when you watch the LinkedIn Learnings, you start to get all like fired up about being like a really good professional, really good like. Starts to get you fired up about work, which I think is a cool thing because bottom line, you spend a lot of your time at work, and your profession is the thing that makes you, that's the thing that puts food on your table. So nothing wrong with getting fired up about that. Other than that, I'm good. Cats are good. I got these sweet resistance bands to work out with. It's not as good as weights, but they have some advantages. And what I especially like about it is if you're just hanging out at home and you get like a sudden burst of energy, you can just fucking hook these bands up to your door or whatever and bang out a quick like pull workout, shoulder workout, whatever you're fucking in the mood for. I got these. I got this pull-up bar. At first I was, here, let me just show you. I don't have it set up in this room, but let me show you what the door looks like. So we've got these doors, but they're, like I reached out to the builder and he said that these doors they're not exactly strong. You know, they're made of, they're like held on by glue and thin nails. Like, so I didn't want to trust this flimsy ass door frame with holding up my weight. But I asked some of my neighbors if they had pull-up bars, and they did, and they were all fine. So like, oh, okay, I'll try it then. And it's been awesome having a pull-up bar in the house again. So anybody who's not in New York probably knows that it's hard to find a good horizontal surface to hang off of and do pull-up bars on. New York, they've got, since there's like so much construction there's always like those like scaffolds overhead that you can just bang on a couple pull-ups. But here in LA, that's not the case, especially when you're not supposed to be outside anyways. So that's nice. So yeah, that's about it from me. Heart goes out to everyone who's in New York right now. I've got a couple homies over there who I need to call. I'll be catching up with you a little later this week. Everybody stay safe, mask up, stay inside. Support your local businesses, get some delivery food, Asian businesses especially because, you know, because of what they're going through right now. And I guess that's a wrap. Later, skaters.